The next part of this chapter is exchange of gases, the second most important concept of this chapter. The exchange of gases takes place at two surfaces. One is at the between alveoli and blood, and the same blood comes near to the tissue, that is blood and tissue. So the actual site of exchange of gases is at alveoli, where the primary site. So primary site of gaseous exchange is alveoli. Then which is the secondary site? Secondary site is the tissues of the organs where the exchange of gases takes place. And very importantly, the how actual exchange takes place. It is by the simple diffusion from higher pressure area to lower pressure area. Same like pressure we have with the concentration, higher concentration gradient to lower concentration gradient. Now, so if you look at this small image, this explains a lot. The arteriole is a small branch of a pulmonary artery. From the pulmonary artery, many branches comes out, and one tiny branch of the pulmonary artery is pulmonary arteriole, which carries the deoxygenated blood to the alveolar surface. When once at the surface it comes, the more carbon dioxide is present in the blood. That is, the partial pressure of the blood present in pulmonary arteriole is 45 mmHg. Whereas in atmospheric air, it will be alveolar air, it will be 40 mmHg. From higher pressure area to lower pressure area, it moves, and now the blood becomes oxygenated blood, because oxygen has, at the meantime, oxygen has been moved into the deoxygenated blood. So fine, so we will study in detail with this. So what are the important criteria or the factors that influence the gaseous exchange? Very firstly, it is the pressure or concentration gradient. The second one is solubility of the gases that we are going to study. Carbon dioxide is 25% more dissolves in the water compared to the oxygen. Thickness of the membrane, we have two membranes. One is the internal lining, inner lining of the alveoli, that is squamous, thin squamous epithelium, and the epithelium of the blood vessel, that is capillary, we call it as an endothelium. So both will produce a basement substance, and together, three layers together will form less than 1 mm thickness where the exchange of gases take place. So here we should be more concentrating here that the exchange of gases is taking place, and the layer is very thin. So because of this thinness only, exchange of gases is taking place. If it was any other tissue like columnar or fibrous tissue, the exchange would have been not possible. That is one thing. And the surface area of the respiratory membrane of the lungs. The next part is the very first step in the gaseous exchanges. We are considering the partial pressure or concentration gradient. The partial pressure is the free atmospheric pressure and free alveolar air pressure. And once the oxygen diffuses into the blood, carbon dioxide diffuses in the blood, now we call it as concentration. From high, always oxygen or the carbon dioxide, respiratory gases, moves from higher pressure or concentration gradient to the lower pressure or lower concentration gradient. So let's see with the very first. What is partial pressure? So the pressure of an individual gas exerted in the entire gas is called partial pressure. For example, we have certain pressure, 60% or 70% of atmospheric air contains oxygen. So that oxygen we studied in biomolecules. So that 60% of atmosphere compared to the carbon dioxide concentration, it is very huge amount. So the partial pressure of oxygen will be more in atmosphere compared to the alveoli, because in our body we continuously produce carbon dioxide. The concentration of carbon dioxide will be more, hence it will result in increased partial pressure of carbon dioxide that we are going to study. So there is an table in our NCERT textbook where it is showing the partial pressure at different sites. So we will just see at a glance. Respiratory gas, in the atmospheric air, alveolar, deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood and tissues. The partial pressure of oxygen in atmospheric air is 159, in alveolar is 104, in deoxygenated blood is 40, in oxygenated blood it is 95, and in tissues is 40. So compared to the oxygen, carbon dioxide is 0.3 because in atmosphere the concentration of carbon dioxide always less. If pollution, but it differs in more polluted areas. Carbon monoxide will be more, carbon dioxide. In that cases, the concentration of partial pressure of carbon dioxide is variable. But in an average, the carbon dioxide concentration is 0.3. Then in alveoli it is 40, in deoxygenated gas is 45, and oxygenated blood is 40. So if you look at the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, it is not more than 45. It is not more than 45 in our body anywhere if you take, and not more than 40. So 40 to 45 is the range in our blood where the carbon dioxide is present. So let's go with this diagram. This one single diagram will explain us how the exchange of gases is taking place. And right now we need to recall about the simple functioning of the heart. Say for example, the deoxygenated blood, whatever the blood that has been reached the tissues with oxygen has given up the oxygen and taken up the carbon dioxide. In simple words, if we have to understand, all this carbon dioxide enters into right atrium through vena cava, that is venous system. We call it as superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Through this vena cava, all the blood, all the deoxygenated blood will enters into right atrium. From the right atrium through the tricuspid valve, the deoxygenated blood enters into the right ventricle. From right ventricle, where the blood should go for lungs, because deoxygenated blood should get oxygenated. That is the main importance of the right ventricle. So right ventricle will pump the blood to the heart. So pump the blood to the lungs, where that is carried, the deoxygenated blood is carried through the pulmonary artery. So the pulmonary artery divides into two branches, right and left. Both will reach into right lung and left, each one of them will reach into the right lung and left lung, where they divide into n number of pulmonary arterioles. So if we have like millions of alveoli, million of arterioles are formed. So each arteriole is connected to each alveoli, where actual exchange of gases will take place. Hence we call alveoli as a primary site of exchange of gases. Now after the exchange has taken place, the same oxygenated blood, now the deoxygenated blood has lost all its carbon dioxide, right? So we call it as, now it has oxygenated blood. So it has given up carbon dioxide and taken in the oxygen. Now this oxygenated blood reaches the left atrium through a vein called pulmonary vein. So from the pulmonary vein, blood enters into left atrium, from the left atrium to left ventricle through the cuspid valve, which is having only two cuspids, okay, dicuspid valve. From there, oxygenated blood is pumped to from the aorta. Aorta will divide into many branches, right? Divides into many branches. From there, it will enter into each and every tissue. That's what this diagram is explaining. Let's start with the tissues. In the tissues, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 45 and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in oxygenated blood is 40. So the oxygenated blood comes to the tissues where the exchange of gases take place. From the lower pressure area, the carbon dioxide moves in higher pressure area, the carbon dioxide moves into the blood and becomes the deoxygenated blood. The deoxygenated blood, the partial pressure of oxygen will be 40 and carbon dioxide will be 45. It reaches the right part of the heart, and from there to the lungs, where exchange of gases take place, and from there through the pulmonary vein, the oxygenated blood will reach the left part of the heart. From there through the aorta, systemic arteries, it reaches again the tissues. The oxygenated blood had 95 mmHg of oxygen. The concentration gradient of oxygen is the partial pressure of oxygen is 95 mmHg. So here, if we look at here, the heart is there is a connection between the heart and lungs is called pulmonary circulation, and the heart and different body parts is called systemic circulation, that we have studied in body fluids, that we are going to study in detail. The next, as we studied, pressure concentration gradient. So partial pressure of alveoli is more than the of blood capillaries, so oxygen diffuses into the capillary blood. Then, so solubility. Then the next very important criteria is carbon dioxide and oxygen, whether their solubility in the water. If we look at here, as we told, the solubility of the carbon dioxide is 20 to 25 times more than solubility of the oxygen. So if in the diagram, if we see, the oxygen is very lately dissolving in the water in the given time as compared to the carbon dioxide. That means water has higher ability to dissolve the carbon dioxide in them. Next, coming with the thickness of the membrane. If you look at here, very importantly, two membranes are there. Very first is the thin alveolar lining, that is thin squamous epithelium, and we see the blood capillary. There also it is squamous epithelium only, but we have a specific name called endothelium. So the endothelium and the thin squamous epithelium, since both of them are epithelial tissue, they produce an basement membrane. This basement membrane releases a mucopolysaccharide made up of glycoproteins and mucopolysaccharide, which causes the basement substance, making an transparent semi-permeable membrane kind of thing where the exchange of gases can take place. So through a simple diffusion. So here basement substance, endothelium, and the thin lining of squamous epithelium are the three layers which forms the exchange substance. Together of all these three membrane, like basement substance membrane and the endothelium and the thin squamous epithelium, they are not more than 1 mm thickness, and exactly if we count it will be only 0.5 mu meter. So it enables the easy gaseous exchange. Then next, coming with the surface area of the respiratory lungs. As I mentioned, there is millions of alveoli in each lung. So in each alveoli, they have their separate, like we have our own things, right? We have our own personal kind of things. So in the same way, each alveoli will have their personal pulmonary, arterial and venule. So arterial will bring the deoxygenated blood and venule will take away the oxygenated blood. And for our to be more specific, all arteries usually carry oxygenated blood, exception is pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood to the alveoli. And again with the same, we come up with the veins, it is always deoxygenated blood, exception is pulmonary vein where it is carrying the oxygenated blood from the alveoli to the heart. So if we take the number of alveoli, why such big number of alveoli should be there? It is for the to increase the surface area, okay, surface area for the gaseous exchange. So fine, that's with the factors that are influencing or involved in the gaseous exchange. In the next session, we will be going to study transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide.